What's up, guys? I'm the Armed Educator here, and I'm here to do something totally original to the Second Amendment community. I'm going to talk about the pistol brace rule. It's not actually all that original, but it's my channel and I'll do what I want with it. I do want to do something a little bit different and try to make it more palatable to those who aren't as informed on the subject. Basically, I am making this video so that those of you who are in the know about the subject can recruit more people on our side in this discussion. There might be a person or two that are on the fence about this rule or don't know why it matters. Hopefully this video will encourage them to get a little bit more involved. I'm going to be using more plain language to make this more digestible, so I might oversimplify a few things, but my goal is to represent the issue as plainly and as simply as I possibly can. Without further ado, let's talk about the problematic pistol brace rule. First, I want to lay the groundwork for this video and discuss the actual law that the pistol brace is anchored to, which is the National Firearms Act of 1934, or the NFA for short. This blatantly unconstitutional law was passed in response to rampant gun crime during the Prohibition. Basically, gangs were illegally selling hooch and were protecting their business with rather violent means. The violence culminated with the St. Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929, which saw 7 gang members shot to death in the streets of Chicago. It's always Chicago. The perpetrators belonged to a gang run by Al Capone, actually, and they carried out the massacre with 2 Thompson submachine guns. Later, FDR, a prominent political figure, had an attempt on his life in 1933, and Congress wanted to do something about it. Sound familiar? So Congress, in their infinite wisdom, wanted to stomp out gun violence once and for all with sweeping legislation. Their solution: pricing people out of the market. A $200 excise tax and registration requirements were placed on certain firearms. Among these are machine guns, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and silencers. You might be asking, why silencers? They aren't firearms. Well, that's a topic for another video. We're going to focus on one of these regulated firearms, which is the short-barreled rifle, or SBR for short. SBRs are basically rifles that have a barrel shorter than 16 inches in length, because guys, length matters. Why would Congress regulate just short-barreled rifles and not all rifles? Well, it kind of was an oopsie. Originally, Congress wanted to put pistols on the list of restricted weapons because of their concealability, but there was a problem. If Congress restricted pistols, what's to stop someone from chopping down a rifle to make a pistol? In fear of this, they decided to add SBRs to the list to try to patch this loophole. But you might have noticed that pistols aren't actually restricted under the NFA. You see, there wasn't much congressional support for restricting pistols, so it ended up being cut from the final bill. But what remained? The portion that restricted SBRs. So basically, there's a portion of the NFA designed to fix a loophole to another portion of the NFA that ended up being cut anyway. Well, that's enough talk about the NFA. We're going to try to move our timeline forward to 2012, when the first pistol brace was invented. Alex Bosco invented the pistol brace in order to help a disabled veteran shoot his AR-15 pistol. You might be wondering how an AR-15 could be considered a pistol and not a rifle. Well, the National Firearms Act defined a rifle as a weapon designed or redesigned, made or remade, and intended to be fired from the shoulder, and designed or redesigned, made or remade to use the energy of the explosive in a fixed cartridge to fire only a single projectile through a rifled bore for each single pull of the trigger. That's a mouthful. The key phrase that we are looking at is intended to be fired from the shoulder. Since the brace was not intended to be fired from the shoulder, it isn't considered a rifle and therefore couldn't be considered an SBR either. Bosco then sent his brace to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Fire... Sorry, I almost vomited. To get confirmation that slapping this bad boy on an AR pistol wouldn't make it an SBR. To his surprise, the ATF agreed and allowed them to be attached to pistols without the NFA restrictions applying. Since then, the relationship between the ATF and pistol braces has been very rocky. There's a time when the ATF claimed that if you put the pistol brace in your shoulder, it magically turned your pistol into an SBR. But all this came to a head in 2022, when the ATF announced a rule that would determine how they would classify firearms with the pistol braces attached. They proposed a worksheet that would assign points to your firearm. If you accumulate enough points, congratulations, you created an SBR. Pay the ATF $200. When this rule was initially proposed in the Federal Register, people from around the US were allowed to comment on the rule. Sure, there were some people who said choice words are the most infamous dog hunters in the nation, but the main consensus was that the worksheet sucked and it had to go. The ATF, under the control of President Biden, deeply considered all the feedback and decided that they were going to do something way worse. The ATF determined that they were going to outline the factors that they would consider when evaluating firearms equipped with a purported stabilizing brace or other rearward attachment to determine whether these weapons could be considered a rifle or an SBR. If that statement confuses you, you are not alone. It confused me the first several times that I read the entirety of the very ominously named final rule. The point is that it's supposed to be vague. How else can we move closer to complete registration and universal background checks without this rule being in place? So why is this fight so relevant? Well, it comes down to two key issues. The first is obviously going to be issues with the separation of power. The legislative branch, of course, as you may know from your government class, is designed to create laws. The executive branch, on the other hand, to which the ATF actually belongs, is designed to enforce the law. This pistol brace rule flies in the face of this very simple and very, very important principle of our country. The second is blatant violation of the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Simply put, the NFA shouldn't exist because of the Second Amendment, but again, that is a topic for another video. Luckily, there are people out there fighting a good fight for your gun rights. Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America, and the Second Amendment Foundation have filed lawsuits against the ATF, and we're winning. FEC secured an injunction in their case, Mock v. Garland. Basically, an injunction is when a judge tells the government that they're not allowed to enforce a rule or a law or some kind. These are granted in the preliminary stage of lawsuits, and it's a good sign that the final ruling in the lawsuit will probably be in our favor. Naturally, injunctive relief was also extended to GOA and 2AF. Not everyone is covered by the injunction, only people who are members of their organizations are. I'm not sure whether people who joined after the injunction was granted will be covered, but it certainly doesn't hurt to join these organizations. They're doing a hell of a job protecting our Second Amendment rights, unlike some people. Yeah. Well, that's all I have for you guys. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you explain this complicated topic to your friends and family. Until then, stay armed, stay educated. See ya.